And crafting family, Angela Wolf here, Brother Brand Ambassador. And today, Emily has a super fun project for you. In fact, we're adding a skirt to a onesie, and we're going to be using the ScanNCut to cut some vinyl. So pop in, say hi. It is a beautiful day here in Southwest Michigan. I was just telling Emily, I got to make sure I don't have any weeds in my hair. I was out planting flowers at the building. I thought I had a free hour. So excuse the bad hair day, but that's what makes it fun, right? Say hi, say where you're from. I'm going to bring Emily up, and we'll be right back. Hello, Emily. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. I cannot wait for this project. In fact, I have somebody that is going to be due here in October that is close to me, and I think this is going to be the perfect project.
So I was actually thinking yesterday when I made this, I actually made one yesterday because it has been actually so long since I did this project that I wanted to like refresh my memory before I did it live. And so I made one that's a little bit larger because I have a 1-year-old niece, but I was thinking everyone I know that's having babies is having boys. So I'm making a tiny version today with you guys, and I don't actually have anyone to give it to. But I do like having gifts that I just sort of put to the side and then I keep for the future. So the one I'm making with you guys today will go in my baby gift drawer, but I did make this one yesterday. And it's a 24-month onesie, but sometimes I know that they like run really weird sizes. So I will take it to our family reunion this summer and see if it fits my niece who's 1. And if not, we'll go with that. But so you can see the onesie continues underneath, and then the skirt is just about the same length as the bottom of that. And I just simply cut a onesie in half, added a skirt, and sewed it back together. And it's so fun and so easy. And you can make, so many different versions of it. And, the one tip that I was thinking about, like, depending on the age of the kid you're making it for, if they're crawling, you're probably going to want to make like a really cute little short skirt. But if they're walking, then you can go longer. Or if they're a baby that just sits there, you can also go longer. So that is something to think about, is the skirt length, I think. And this is leftover summer fabric from those dresses I made for all the cousins last summer. So it is,
that's fun. Good purpose.
Fun times, yeah. So today I have a whole onesie here, and I'll show you how I just cut it apart. And then, so you probably lose about a 1/2 inch of the length of the onesie when you do this project. So that's just something to like keep in mind if someone is close to sizing, or you need to upsize or use a brand, which I don't have a suggestion, but a brand that is like long, because we do cut it and then sew it back together. So you're going to lose that seam allowance. So I have this plain top, and you can also like dye this to match before you sew the skirt. So if you're really wanting a different color fabric, or you're not using something that has white in it, these are really easy to dye. And I've, dyed these plain white ones a lot. But I have this fun heart fabric today that I thought I would make a skirt out of, and then the white will just go nicely together. And then with the ScanNCut, I thought it'd be really fun to cut a heart vinyl decal that we could just add right on the chest. So, or maybe I'll make like a little cluster of 3 hearts. I don't know. We're gonna just play around a little bit with some of the built-in designs on the ScanNCut, and I know there's hearts in there, so we can just come check that out. So that's what my plan is for today. And
very exciting. I can see all the comments, Emily. Everybody's like, so cute. Actually, when you held that up, I was like, what happens if you take the bottom off? Well, you didn't. So this is going to be even better.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I've done it where you just like make a t-shirt dress where you cut a t-shirt and add a skirt. So this is the same idea, but you're actually putting the bottom back on so that it still is good coverage for babies and provides the same, you know, sort of idea of the onesie, but then we just dress it up a little bit. So what was I getting? I was going to say something else, but I can't think of what it is right now. So, so when I was redoing this post yesterday on my site, I had originally written this when we were fostering our daughter, that was in 2014. So looking back at those pictures when she's so tiny and such a little baby made me smile. So if you follow me now and you know what Rose looks like, which is big girl, you can go back and check out the latest post on my site is an updated version of this onesie one, which includes pictures of her when she's 6 months old as a tiny little thing, and it's hardly the same child. So, so anyway, it was really fun to do that. And I'm excited about today.
If they look below, your website's right below. For those somebody who's new, doesn't know where to find Emily.
Yes.
There you go. There's our website.
All right, so let's get started. And the first thing we're going to do is actually cut the onesie and then prepare the vinyl so that we can iron that on without the skirt in the way, because this is like a little bump on the fabric. And if you're trying to press that, I just don't want anything in the way of the iron that I'm going to use. So we're going to add that and then we'll put the skirt. And this is actually just such an easy project, which you'll see the sewing is literally just around the circle because I'm not even going to hem the fabric when I'm using the knit fabric. So I actually might need to get the other camera. I think it's going to actually show the ScanNCut better. So maybe you can just take me out for a second while I grab the other one.
All right, we can do that. We can still hear you, but I'll bring you back up. Unless everyone wants to get seasick, that's always part of the life.
I know. So I had that one over by the serger that I'm going to use, but I think actually we'll be glad that I show this here.
Oh, your ScanNCut's looking good.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. So now we can see, and I'll bring this a little bit closer while we look at the design, and then we'll back it up a little bit to show you what we're going to do. So I have my iron plugged in and heating over on the side, and then we're going to check out some of the built-in designs. So I often will use both parts of this in that I like to use things that I create on the computer and then, wirelessly transfer over. But I also love that there are built-in designs on here that if you just want to like a square or a triangle, or today we're going to cut a heart, that they're just built in. So that's really easy to use. So you can see when you hit the design button, you have some words, you have some borders, you have some text, you have some more pictures. Let's see if I can bring this a little bit closer. But we're just going to stick with the basic shapes and then just scroll down until we find the hearts. Okay, so there are 3 heart options, but these 2 have like scalloped edges, and I just really want the straight cut heart. So this tells you exactly how big it is right now. So it's almost 4 inches by 4 inches, and that's going to be too wide for what we want to do. So I'm going to make this one quite a bit smaller. Maybe we'll go 2.5 inches. It's a tiny little baby onesie, so we don't have a huge canvas to work on. But let me just get that onesie again, and we can take a quick look at the top. Okay, so here's the fabric we're working with, and if we cut it sort of here, we can see we'll have a little bit of space to put that red heart in the middle. Okay, so I think 2.5 inches is good. So then I'm going to hit the set button. All right, and then you can see, oh, you can't really see, but it is up here in the corner, and it sort of sets it where it's conserving of the vinyl rather than sticking it right in the middle where you cut in the middle of a sheet of vinyl. It usually puts the designs in a way that saves the vinyl. Okay, so we could go back and add another shape if we wanted. Get add, edit, or we're going to go to the OK button. So I think we'll just stick with a single heart in the center. Just keep it nice and simple. I'm going to hit the cut button.
I don't want to interrupt you, but can you, we just can't quite, we can see what you're clicking on the right, but the screen where the hearts are showing up, sometimes it's a little bit challenging because of the brightness.
I know. I'm not quite sure if what, tell me if it gets better. It's just, there's like a weird glare and it's bright. Can you see that a little bit better?
I think, yeah, that's better. The glare is gone.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's better. It's just a little blurry for some reason. I don't know why it's not picking it up.
Yes.
I thought it was me. I put my glasses on, but it's not.
No, it is. And I don't, maybe it's too close for this camera. No, but it is, it's like centered on this brother here.
It's like, hey, come on.
Focusing on the wrong thing. Okay. I don't know. Okay. Well, I'm just going to explain it to you guys. And then when I push this back, hopefully it will center on the big things again. So on this cut, we just want to check a couple of things, and you can edit pushing this little tool button, but I did just cut vinyl on this, so it should be set. So it has the pressure, and I like to set that on auto unless I find that it's not cutting it on auto. And sometimes if you're using different materials, the auto isn't okay, but I'm pretty sure with the vinyl, the auto is going to be fine. Then the speed is again just the preset. And then I have the half cut, and you want to use the half cut with vinyl because you're not cutting through the whole material. You're actually just cutting through the top layer. And then the bottom layer is the clear sheet that we use to adhere it to the fabric. So this actually has two layers. One is this clear plastic, and then one is the vinyl. And that is what we will do it on. Now, if you're doing vinyl, heat transfer vinyl, and you are using text, you do want to make sure that you mirror your text before you cut it. And you can either do that on the screen here, or you can do that if you're working in Canvas Workspace on your computer. So those are two ways. I usually like to mirror it on Canvas Workspace before I export it. But this heart will not matter if it's cut in mirror or not. Okay. So I am pressing this vinyl. And again, the shiny plastic part should go down, and the vinyl is what we want to cut. And it's just really going to cut up here in the corner. So make sure that's all pressed down. And then I have this roll of vinyl. So I'm actually just going to kind of hold it here with my hands. And then you set it under the rollers here, the mat. It has little notches, so it loads right in. And then up here on the control panel, again, you're going to hit this mat button, and that will load the mat. So it kind of goes slow, then it goes fast. It's reading it and loading it, making sure that you have the right kind of mat, and then it should be good to go. So again, I'm just double checking before I hit start. I have the heart, I have the pressure set at auto, and I have the half cut on. So the half cut is the most important thing to remember when we're cutting vinyl like this, because if we go all the way through, then it's really difficult to actually iron on to what you're working with. So now we can push start, and it tells me it's going to take 1 minute. I will be doubtful if it actually takes the full minute, but I think that's the least amount of time that it can give for cutting. It doesn't have seconds. So what it does first is it evaluates the thickness of the material you're cutting, which is how it can just be an auto cut. Oh yeah, that was like 10 seconds. So it usually measures over here on the side of the mat, and then it comes over and it measures the depth on the material that you're using, and then it cuts it. And what that does is it gauges how much it needs to cut based on how high this is and then how high this is. and then it can determine what a half cut is. So it's really amazingly sophisticated to be able to easily cut so many different fabrics and materials without me having to do any adjustments. And you can do a test cut. I didn't do that. So worst case, if this heart isn't cut thick enough or whatever, we'll just cut another one. But with cutting vinyl, I have really good luck with it just being on the auto. So now we're going to unload the mat. So just click that and pull this up, and I will just tilt this down a little bit more. Okay, so the design was cut over here in this corner. So I'm going to go ahead and peel this off.
Hey, Emily.
Yeah.
Just someone had a quick question while you're right there. What mat were you using?
I was using a standard tack mat, and that's what I will usually use for vinyl.
Okay.
The low tack sometimes just isn't, for me, tacky enough, for lack of a better word. So I do like to use the standard tack, and then with the fabric, I'll use the high tack mats or the fabric sheets, the extra adhesive sheets. But with vinyl, both craft vinyl and heat vinyl, I usually will just use the standard tack. So I use low tack for paper, because paper on the standard tack sometimes leaves a big mess because it's like so sticky you can't get it off. So trial and error there for sure. Okay, so I cut out, you probably cannot see on here, but I can see if I hold it up to the light just right, the faint cut line around this heart. And in person, you could see it too. But what I've done then is cut out the vinyl, so I have less around when I'm working with this. And now we're going to weed out that extra vinyl around and just leave the heart. So I like to kind of just grab on one of those cut lines, and you can see there's the top of the heart revealed really quickly. And for a design this simple, I don't really need my tool. I can literally just pull this off and around and then be left with our cute little heart. Okay, so it is so cute and easy, and definitely a nice heart there. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do, and I will just continue, I think, to work right here, is lay out the onesie, and we're going to cut it in half. So I am going to grab my ruler and my rotary cutter, and maybe I'll push this back here a little bit. Okay, so depending on how high you want your skirt, right? So do you want it like an empire waist? Do you want it more natural waist? Now, babies don't have a lot of waist to begin with. So I always like to keep it higher. I think higher is safer and easier. So my suggestion is either to cut it 1 inch below the arm or 2 inches below the arm. So I just am going to line this up and see what I think, because we have, I'm also using a straight edge on my mat to make sure the onesie is straight, or to hope that it's straight. So if I were to cut it 2 inches below the arm, this is what it would look like for the skirt placement. So I think I'm actually going to go 1.5 inches and split the difference. So 1.5 inches below where the sleeve is attached, that still gives me room to iron this cute little heart and to have some seam allowance here to sew the skirt back on. So I've got my 1.5 inch lined up across, and then we're just going to slice it in half. So it should be pretty easy to cut. Just a couple layers of fabric. My problem is I am bad at changing the blade on my rotary cutter. So when it doesn't work, it's usually my fault and not the machine's, in that I haven't given it the right blade. So now I have my little pressing mat here, and we're going to center.
To tell you, I'm laughing about that.
Okay.
I'm laughing about that because that would only happen if you're live, is when the rotary cutter does not work right.
Totally. Well, and sometimes I'll think, oh, I need to change that. And then I, go days more without doing it. And I can always make it work. But of course, when I do change it, I'm so happy because it just works like so much easier that I wonder, why did I wait so long to change it? All right, so I'm gonna press this with a regular iron at high heat. So the linen cotton setting with no steam. All right, so that's what I use when I'm using this. And then you also need to, when you're putting on heat transfer vinyl, you do actually need to add pressure. So I'm not only gonna put the iron on it, but I'm also gonna put my strength on it and just press a little bit. So we'll go about 30 seconds and then we'll check it. And the thing that I like to look for is where I can see that the fabric is actually fused into the vinyl. And you can see that by, sometimes you can see the pattern weave in the vinyl, or you can see some dimples in the vinyl that actually show that it's adhering, not only adhering, but literally fusing to the fabric, and that will keep it from peeling off. And, you know, using high quality vinyl is also essential. My son has a sweatshirt right now that I made him, and I think I just got some bargain vinyl and it's coming off after just a few wears. But usually I do not have that problem. So I think it's because normally I am buying high quality heat transfer vinyl. Okay, so we're gonna check this. And you can see what I mean. Maybe you can't. I don't know if it's going to focus, but you can see in there, there's some you can see some texture coming through the vinyl, and that's literally the texture of the shirt coming up through the vinyl, which to me is a really good indication that this is ironed down into the vinyl. So then we can peel off this top sticker. And sometimes I will like finger press if I see, oh, that looks like it's coming up a little bit. But this is definitely adhered, trying to get it to catch the light. But you can kind of see how it's into the grain of the fabric. And if you look really close, you can see some of the fabric lines in there. But really, when you're back away, it's not a problem at all. So I like to see that. To me, that's a good sign that it's really going to stay on there well. So there's the cute little top. That is just like, I need to make something on that firecracker one, a little decal to go on the top, because I think this is just going to add such a fun little extra detail on there. Okay, so I think we're finished with the iron. We've got the second part of our onesie, so we don't want to lose that. And now it's time to cut the skirt. So the tutorial that's on my website gives two different options for the skirt, and you can do just a normal gathered skirt, or you can make a circle skirt. And I had so much fun making the circle skirt yesterday that I think that's what I'm gonna do again today. So I guess I just have to make sure I only have a half yard of this heart fabric. So I have to make sure that I can just cut a short little skirt. I think will be cute. All right, so to make a circle skirt, you're gonna create a double fold. So I have one fold here, then I'm gonna create another fold here and line up that double fold corner on the side here. Okay, so actually I'm just gonna jet over, grab my phone so we can do some math, and I can show you on the calculator actually how easy it is to do. So what you need to do is you need to measure the top of the onesie where you cut it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 inches. It's slightly more than 7 inches, but it's stretch fabric, so I'm not worried about being exact. So in order to be all the way around the onesie, right, 7 inches is side to side. I want the total circumference, so that would be 14 inches, okay? So let's take a look at this. And here we go. So we have 14 inches, and then in order to get the dimensions to cut the circle skirt waistband, we multiply it by 6.28, which is double pi. And there, nope, not multiply it. 14 divided by 6.28. That's going to be a really big waistband. Okay, 2.2 inches. That sounds a lot better. Okay, so we're going to cut.
You could just add a lot of gathering, Emily, a lot of gathering, and you'd be fine.
Yes. This half yard of fabric is definitely not enough to cut that size. All right, so I'm going to line up the corner on 2 lines of the grid here. And we're going to cut the waistband circle, semicircle, the 2.2. Okay, and then this waist part will fit around the circumference of our onesie. And then, so I'm using just a fabric marker here. I put the point of my measuring tape in the corner, keep rotating it around. You can use a soft tape or a hard tape. I kind of like to use this one because I feel like it's pretty easy to maneuver. And then my scissors are all over the place today. I did not get those very well organized. Okay, so now we're going to cut this, and I want this to be cut out before I measure the length of the skirt, because then we can really see how much fabric do we actually have to make a skirt. So the length of the skirt is limited by the width of the fabric. And like I said, this was only a ½ yard, but now it's folded in half. So that does possibly limit how long we can make our skirt. So obviously you can see we couldn't make a 12-inch skirt. We would definitely not have enough. But tiny little onesie, this is a 6 to 9 month size. So let's just put whatever length skirt we can using this fabric. Now, if I was really had as much fabric as I wanted and I wasn't worried about the length, how I would measure the length is usually I'll measure how long is this bottom part of the onesie. So I have it here, measure from the bottom when it's laid flat up to the top, and it's about 9.5 inches. So like that one I made yesterday with the blue skirt, I simply cut my skirt then 9.5 inches. Well, you can see I don't have 9.5 inches to cut with this fabric. So our skirt will be a little bit shorter than the full length of this onesie, but that's going to be totally fine and still look absolutely adorable. So I'm not as worried about the length of this, but that is how I determine how long to make my skirt. Now, if you're like, okay, this child's going to be crawling and I want to keep it really short and I don't want it to interfere with the legs, you can see where the leg opening is, then you could measure on the onesie from there and avoid the legs. But let's see what we have. We have about 7 inches to safely work with. So let's mark the skirt at the 7-inch mark, 7-inch line. And so now instead of lining up in the corner, I'm going to line up on this cut part of the skirt. And again, sort of keeping it straight as I rotate around. You could also cut a string, you know, and use that as a pendulum to swing around. And then I'm not going to be hemming this, but if you were going to hem it, then you would definitely want to make sure that you allowed for a hem allowance when you are cutting your length too. So think about, do I need to add an extra ½ inch or 3/4 of an inch to add that hem? I'm going to just cut this with the scissors, and then if I see any sort of jaggedy cut lines, I'll smooth that out after. But you're hoping that you can cut a pretty smooth bottom of the dress, and then even when you don't hem it, it will look awesome. So just gonna take a quick look here. Looks like it's cut. I don't, sometimes when you have those weird like scissor marks and it's a little bit jaggedy on the bottom, but this actually looks really great. And now we can turn this right side out and just see how adorable this heart skirt is going to be. And I just love tiny things. It's so cute when the circle skirt is this size rather than like making it for myself and it's huge. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. I got to tell you, that skirt is so cute. And also, there are so many people watching that I see somebody, grandbabies coming along, other babies coming along.
Yeah, we all know people having babies. Yeah. Even if it's not yourself, it's not very hard to look around and not see someone having a baby that you know in your life. So definitely a really fun and easy one that you can make. All right, so now, this is patterned fabric. So I do have to decide, all right, where are the hearts going to be? In the front, I'm going to put the hearts right side up. That means in the back, they will actually be upside down, but it's the back, so it's okay. So what we're going to do is mark the sides. because then we can match this up with the side seams, and then that will equally distribute this skirt around the onesie. And then we make a onesie sandwich, and this is, or a onesie skirt sandwich, I think is what I called it. So we have the bottom, and you're just actually going to leave this right side up, and we're going to put it back inside this skirt. And then those two clips that we just put are the halfway mark, which we are going to line up with the side seams. So then we'll take that and clip that in, and then go and do it on the other side. And so because this is so tiny, I just work off 2 points. I don't bother to quarter it. But of course, if this was an adult size circle skirt, I would definitely be quartering everything. But for this size, a half is fine. And then you're just going to match the center of the front and match the center of the back. Now, the first version that I made of this back when Rose was a tiny little baby, I forgot to be aware that the onesie bottom has a front and back, and the onesie top has a front and back. And I actually sewed the purple version, which if you look close and see that she's wearing it, the bottom is actually backwards. So I put it on her with the back of in the front so that the top would be correct, because I sewed it on mixed around. So now I'm very aware to make sure that I'm matching the front of the top and the front of the bottom before I pin it, because I don't really, especially if you're giving this as a gift, you don't want the baby to have to wear the thing backwards underneath. So for the top, we have to turn this right side out or wrong side out, because we want to put the right sides together. So I just go ahead. This is where those nice wide shoulders come in handy. And this is, again, where you're thinking, okay, so this is the back, this is the front. So I want to make sure that I'm matching the front with the front. So I'm just going to squish this all together, and we're going to put it through the neck hole, double and triple checking that the front and the front are on the same side. And then I'm going to take the side seams. Again, that's my starting point of reference, and I'm going to match those up. If you're uncomfortable sewing all 3 of these layers of fabric together, then you could sew the skirt to the bottom first and then come back and do this second layer to the top. And a basting stitch would be fine in there and not get in the way. But it's actually, because we're not gathering and the fabric is pretty much just straight on top of each other, I don't really think it's actually very difficult at all to sew all 3 layers, but I do just want to throw that out there as an option. And then while I have this here, I'm going to add just a couple more clips to hold those in between the quarters together, so that we can just go around and sew this very easily, and it will be all lined up perfectly already. Okay, so now we're pinning this front, and then I'm just taking a little mark between those. And again, these are just 3 raw edges of fabric, and you're making sure that they're lined up as evenly as possible. You should not have to really stretch the skirt or the onesie. They should be virtually the same size, because we use the onesie circumference to cut this opening in the circle skirt. But because we're working with like tenths of inches, there is a bit of a margin of error. But of course, with knit fabric, those small margins, like maybe this tiny gap, is super easy to fix when we're sewing. Okay, so we just ease it around when we go to the sewing. All right, so now this is the one part we actually have to sew in this project. We're going to take this over, and I'm going to sew it on the serger. But of course, if you don't have a serger, you could definitely do your regular sewing machine with a knit stitch, or I would probably use a wide, close together zigzag to sort of imitate that seam that the serger would create, and go around there on that. So give me a second to switch my camera over back to my sewing machine, and we'll sew this up.
All right. I'm just sitting here watching away, reading all the comments below, and we can hear you, but we can't see you, Emily. As soon as I hear you, see you that you're in one place, I'll bring you back up. So I see a lot of people asking, Star, by the way, you wanted to know more about the babies coming in October. Well, I think it's already out, so I'm allowed to say. But my sister, who has her twins turn, oh, Emily, they're so much fun. They turned 4 today.
Okay.
So I'm so excited for that. I know, and a new baby coming in October. I can hardly wait. So
That's
very fun.
Super exciting. Babies are the
All
best.
right, I see.
And being an aunt is super fun too. So I actually have a new nephew in March that I haven't met yet, but he's a boy. So I will not be making him this onesie dress. So
so fun though.
A question about knit versus woven, and I actually had woven fabric pulled out to try this yesterday, but due to the nature of how fitted onesies are, I just thought if I sew in a woven skirt, that's going to eliminate all the stretch out of this onesie. And so I can't visualize how I could make a woven skirt that would still have enough stretch to like stretch over a baby's head or bum. I just picture that being a stiff, non-stretchy thing right in the middle of the onesie. So for me, I think you have to do this with knit, but you can do it a gathered skirt, but that would still allow for stretch. So that's my opinion. And just as I've been thinking through this, I think you need to use woven. And then the question about doing this for a toddler, yes, I mean, you can do this with any size onesie, but also you can do this with a t-shirt. So you can take a t-shirt, cut it shorter, and sew on a custom skirt for a really easy t-shirt dress using the same method. You just wouldn't have this under part that you're sewing on. So I've done that I've done that many times, especially if you get a hole or something in the bottom of a t-shirt, you can easily just chop it off and make it into a dress.
So true. So true.
Okay. So we're going to just sew around. Super simple here. Okay. And I'm just watching to make sure that I'm catching all 3 of those layers of fabric. And it's a little bit of a small circle, so it takes some maneuvering to make sure that we are pulling the fabric from the back to the front, keeping it all lined up. So there's a bit of start and stop. You know, I would rather just fly through, but when you're going around a small circle like this, there really just isn't a way to do it without the start and stop. But I do have it all pinned and clipped, so my layers are pretty easy to sew through here. All right. So now, so simple, but we just open it up and then you have the cutest little baby dress that you've ever seen.
Oh my gosh, is that adorable or what? Those hearts match perfect.
I know. The color is adorable on there. Oh, now I need someone who's having a little girl that I can send this to, which I'm sure will come up, but that is so cute.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Everybody's commenting. So stinking cute. I agree. You know, by the way, Emily, as I'm looking at that, all I'm thinking is, do you know how much you would pay for that? In fact, I just went and bought 2 little swim tops with bathing suit bottoms for the girls for their birthday. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is more than I spend on one of my own shirts. Of course, I sew all my own shirts, but still, that is adorable. And the vinyl, I saw somebody asking, will the vinyl come off with washing? If you buy a quality vinyl, it should not.
No.
Really worried, do some like maybe some pretty top stitching on it to keep it in place. That's another idea for you.
Yeah, my kids wear shirts that I've added vinyl to all the time because we're always making custom things. And it is extremely rare that we've had one come off. Like I said, this sweatshirt my son has, it is coming off, but one, I don't remember. I think the vinyl was just one that I ordered like a last minute thing. So I'm guessing I probably went with what could come the fastest rather than what is good quality. And I'm not sure about the texture of the sweatshirt is a little bit different than I think a regular sweatshirt. So that's the only project that I can think of in the last several years where I've had any issues. So like I said, I always make sure that I've pressed it enough that it is like fused into the fabric. I can't find any bumps. There's no ridges on the outside. Like this feels as flat can be. And you can always go back and put that, if you peel it off and you're like, shoot, that is not enough, put that plastic back on and iron it more. You can always do that. Especially right away, like after a washing, not so much, but yeah, so you could stitch around like a cute decorative stitch, but I have not had problems with it coming off at all.
Absolutely adorable. I see some of you rolling in. By the way, if you haven't been to Emily's blog, I have it right down below. I also have, by the way, if you haven't visited your brother dealer for the ScanNCut or the serger she's using, that link is below too. If you go to brothersews.com. But let me put up Emily's website here while Emily's coming back to us. You coming back to the camera there?
Yes.
It's like, whoo, you're here. What a cute project. Oh my gosh, Emily, absolutely adorable.
Yeah, this one is tinier even than that one I showed you at the beginning. And I think the short skirt is absolutely adorable as opposed to, and I'll bring this one back too, for those of you that missed it at the beginning. So this is a bigger onesie. Okay, this is 24 months, so that, you know, is bigger. But also I made the skirt the full length to cover the whole bottom, which is fine because this is for someone who is walking. But this short one is actually I'm just loving how cute that is.
It is I agree. So adorable. So stinking cute.
So now I have to put like a blue star or something on this one to add, or maybe try to scan in one of these rocket designs and cut it or something, but it would be so cute on the front.
It really would. You know, I like your idea, and I've done this a few times for friends' kids and stuff, but taking the t-shirt and cutting it off and adding a skirt like that. I've never done the circle skirt. I always just did a straight gathered. I love the look of that. The circle skirt just has like a little bit of, I don't know, a little finesse. It's so cute.
It's really cute. And actually, it's almost easier to sew on than the gathered skirt because you're not worried about like making sure the gathers, or you don't have that bulk that you have in a gathered seam. Because sometimes I feel like in a t-shirt dress like that, I've stretched out the shirt, not meaning to, but you know, trying to sew it on, and ended up with like a wavy waistline that I don't want. And but I think with the circle skirt, because it's just the same size, it's not as likely to happen like that. So the first time I sewed these 6 years ago, I did do the gathered skirts, but I just had updated the post yesterday, like I said, with the circle skirt option, and I absolutely loving it. It's probably my new favorite method for this rather than the gathered skirt.
So cute. So cute. Well, be sure, by the way, if you make this or a version of this, see the hashtags above me. Brother loves to see what you're working on. Use brother, hashtag brother sews, hashtag brother ScanNCut. Be sure to tag Emily as well. I always sneak over to see what everybody's working on. It's so much fun.
Tag me. I love to see. I also love sharing. I'll share like anything I'm tagged in that's inspired by something I've done. I'll share it in my stories so other people can see it. So it's fun to see. Yeah, lots of stuff comes in, and I love it.
A lot of inspiration. Emily, this was a fantastic show. So I know everyone here watching, the comments are, be sure to like this if you're on Facebook, also on YouTube. You know, if you hit the like on YouTube, by the way, don't forget to subscribe, because when we have new shows in the summer, our schedule gets a little crazy. So it might not be as consistent as it's been. It might be different times. You'll never miss a time because you'll get an alert. That's the best part. So Emily, by the way, for the rest of the week, do you have a live show tomorrow? Are you off?
I am off because this is the last week of school for my kids. So it's just wild and everything is different. So yeah, so tomorrow I have, kids taking finals and other kids having sports days, and I'm serving pizza at the sports day. So I'm off this week, and I will be off next week because we're going to start off our summer with a trip to Yellowstone. But I will, like you, summer I will be hit or miss, but I'll make sure I get a couple in June and a couple in July. And I'm on Wednesdays at 1:30 or 3:30 Eastern if I'm on. So, but again, if you go to my page and follow it, then you'll get those alerts and know when I'm on.
Exactly. And that's the same thing with Brother. The schedule might be changing a little bit just for the summer schedule with all educators and the ambassadors,
Yes.
mine as well. So be sure to go to our pages, subscribe to the YouTube. If you're on Facebook, be sure to like and follow. That's the best way to be notified in case you miss a newsletter or a blog post or something like that. That's fantastic. So I will have a live show tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. I am finishing the last few UFO projects. I got Emily. I cleaned my stuff. I got a box wide and high. It's like, whoa. So I will be on tomorrow, 1:30 Eastern. And for Brother, we will see you the 1st of June. We will be off on Thursday, and I will see you at the end of next week. So
crazy.
Sounds fantastic. Emily, have a wonderful week, and thank you for an awesome project.
Thank you so much for having me. See you next time.
Everybody's saying thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, bye.